Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to HP Gaming. And as this video airs, it's going to be Zelda's 40th anniversary, which is crazy to me that it's already hit its 40th. I turned 34 this year, so I've essentially grown up with Zelda. Zelda, the original Zelda, was not my first Zelda. Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda. So I kind of want to just go over like most of the Zelda games and kind of my opinions on them and just talk about Zelda because Zelda is my favorite gaming franchise of all time. Zelda Ocarina of Time is my favorite game of all time. That was always up in the air in debate for me whether it was my number one. And recently, a year or two ago, I did a full playthrough of Ocarina of Time on NSO and 100% of the game and just loved it. Even that game with its not weird controls, but with the Z targeting and just being an N64 game, still holds up. Like I highly recommend playing that game. And if you have a 3DS, get Zelda Ocarina of Time 3DS version and play that on there because that's the superior version. And but either version I think is Ocarina of Time. I think is a must play for every gamer out there, in my opinion. So yeah, Zelda is near and dear to my heart. Again, it wasn't my first video game that I played. Pokemon, either Red or Blue was, and then I went over to my buddy's house and he was playing Ocarina of Time, and I was like, "What is this?" And I was watching him play and played a little bit, and then that following Christmas, I ended up getting an N64 and Ocarina of Time for Christmas, and yeah, I've just fell in love with the franchise then and have been ever since. And for the most part, like when a Zelda comes out, even like the worst Zelda game is still a fantastic video game in general. Um, and I think and why Zelda means so much to me is I was about I think I was 7 years old when I got my N64. And Zelda's not an easy game for a kid by any means. So what my I would play the game, and my mom would have the strategy guide, which I still have. It's I've got it kind of wrapped up right now. It is pretty pretty damaged. I would love to get another one that's like in better condition, but this is my original. This is the one that my mom held and looked up all the secrets and strategies for the game. And she doesn't play video games anymore, or really ever since, other than like mobile games here or there. But she still has high regards for Ocarina of Time, so that is awesome. So yeah, Ocarina of Time, and then directly into Majora's Mask. And this was back when I didn't have Nintendo Power. There wasn't really the internet back then when I was growing up. There was, but there wasn't. And I saw Majora's Mask that had just came out, and I got it, and it's this weird sequel to Ocarina of Time with these creepy masks, and I never actually ended up beating that game. I got stuck on the Gerudo, level where you're supposed to be getting the eggs, and I just couldn't. That game was pretty difficult for a kid, and I couldn't figure out like the time mechanic real well. Actually, ended up going back and picked it up on the 3DS when that first launched, years ago at this point, and beat it for the first time, and absolutely loved it. And then I recently started replaying it on the N64 NSO app. So Majora's Mask it's a weird game. It is a very very weird dark Zelda game. Very dark and other Zelda games are dark, but this is probably the darkest one. But I love the time mechanic is awesome. All the masks, all the different stories that are in the world. It's such a fantastic game. I think it's a slept on game. Like it's kind of like the underdog game, I guess, in the Zelda franchise. But again, like Ocarina of Time, I think it's a must play for. I'm sure if a Zelda fan, I'm sure all Zelda fans have played Majora's Mask at this point. But again, I would highly recommend it to anybody. And then we move on to like Wind Waker, and I'm kind of skipping the GBA games. I love those games. Had them all growing up as well. But for the sake of the the length of this video, we'll move over to Wind Waker. This one was like a controversial title. I remember, growing up, when it got announced. I saw that it got announced. It was the next big 3D Zelda game with this really amazing cartoonish art style that obviously still even on the GameCube it still holds up. Um, all these years, and I remember a lot of people like when I was in GameStop pre-ordering getting the GameCube and pre-ordering Zelda, and got the the master Ocarina of Time like master edition and stuff like that. I think even the GameStop employees were like, "Yeah, we're not digging this art style. Like we want more of a realistic." And I was like, "Really? Like this looks awesome." And then ended up picking up the game, and it's one of the best Zelda games ever made. Yeah, Wind Waker is absolutely fantastic. And about this time, um, was really after Wind Waker, and more so getting closer to Twilight Princess coming out, is where I started to listen to gaming podcasts and started following gaming news. So I was like very on top of gaming news, especially for Zelda. And then Twilight Princess came out, and while the Wii was not my favorite system, um, my brother ended up getting the Wii for Christmas when it came out, and I ended up getting Twilight Princess, which I guess I should have just gotten on GameCube, but ended up getting on the Wii, and their motion controls aside, which I don't think are that egregious in Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess was an excellent game. It is, again, like when I say one of the greatest Zelda games. There's so like all of them are great. Um, but yeah, Twilight Princess was excellent. That one doesn't hold up as well as Wind Waker with kind of the more muddier textures, like the kind of the more realistic art style doesn't hold up. It looks better on the Wii U, but I would love obviously a remaster of that coming to Switch 2 or Switch at some point. I mean, we've been clamoring for that for years and begging Nintendo, but they haven't given it to us. So, and I think out of the two, the Wind Waker and the Twilight Princess, I think Twilight Princess needs it more than Wind Waker. Wind Waker still looks fantastic on the GameCube app, and the Wii U version just looks incredible in HD. Then we move over to Skyward Sword, kind of the end of the Wii's legacy, and this is the first Zelda game outside of Majora's Mask, because I just couldn't finish it because it was a little bit too difficult for me. When I picked up Skyward Sword, I only put a few hours into it. I just did not enjoy the motion controls at all. I thought they were unintuitive. I really, at this point, I think I just did not like the Wii as much as I wanted to, and with everything being forced motion controls. I said my precious Zelda. They've done it to my precious Zelda, and they've put in these crummy motion controls. Ended up picking Skyward Sword on the Switch when it came out a few years ago, and it's an incredible. It's probably got the best story out of all the Zelda games, or close to it. And the reworking of those controls is much better than the motion controls. And it was very interesting. Like, obviously, it was the game before Breath of the Wild, and you can see the DNA of Breath of the Wild in Skyward Sword, which I think is, or vice versa, which I think is really cool. You could kind of see this, like the stagger mechanic and stuff like that. You could kind of see that going into Breath of the Wild. And then Breath of the Wild came out on the Switch. Wii U was a flop. It was not. It was a good system, but just wasn't supported well. Didn't have. It had a lot of great games, but it just didn't sell well. So Nintendo wisely abandoned it pretty quickly and moved on to the Switch. And the fact that the Switch launched with Breath of the Wild, man, Breath of the Wild is just it's such an incredible game. It's also kind of a blur in my Zelda timeline because my son was also born like 2 months after that game released, and I was still playing it, and a lot of that time it was just kind of a blurry mess for me because I really need to go back and play Breath of the Wild, but still absolutely fantastic game. And then we move over to stuff like Echoes of Wisdom was what I thought was a really cool Zelda game, top-down Zelda game. And then Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is probably my second favorite Zelda game of all time, right? And it's a close right behind Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is definitely won over by nostalgia. But again, I replayed it a couple years ago, and I still absolutely love that game. The music in Ocarina of Time, and I'm going back to Ocarina of Time, but that's how just good that game is. That music in Ocarina of Time is perfect. Um, but yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, building upon Breath of the Wild, going back to that Hyrule with that Link and that Zelda, I thought was incredible. Yeah, there was a lot of. I think I wanted them to do more with the story, with the Sky Islands. Like I wanted to them incorporate Skyward Sword. You know, they specifically brought up Skyward Sword as the first in the timeline, the essentially the prequel, right, to Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. And none of that stuff was really mentioned. It really wasn't mentioned at all. And you know, every Zelda game is always confined to that specific story. And I think having a timeline that Nintendo, you know, it was always theorized for years what the Zelda timeline was, but when Nintendo created the Hyrule Historia, um, they set that precedent, and now they have to abide by the timeline. But also, they kind of don't because they can kind of do whatever they want. Um, but yeah, Tears of the Kingdom was my game of the year in 2023. One of the best games I think ever created. Um, and yeah, Zelda is just yeah, it's just a very special game. It's a very special series, and I'm glad that it's finally Zelda's always sold well, but with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom being the best sellers in the series, you know, in 2017 to 2023 and beyond, um, I'm very happy that more people are getting into Zelda because it is such a special franchise, and unlike like 3D Mario, um, and we get a lot of Mario games, but we also get like a ton of Zelda games. Like we usually get one type of Zelda game every year, so it's a franchise that sells well, it reviews well, it's incredible, and we get a lot. You know, we might have to wait 5 or 6 years between the mainline stuff, but we also get like very quality either remakes or ports, or new like top-down experiences with Echoes of Wisdom. Yeah, Echoes of Wisdom wasn't my favorite Zelda game of all time by any means, but I thought it was a really cool um, game that you get to play as Zelda. So that's awesome. So happy 40th anniversary, Zelda. Happy birthday. 40 more. Can't wait to see what in 40 years what Zelda looks like. Hopefully it's not live service crap that seems to be plaguing the industry right now. So I'm excited for what the next 3D Zelda is, and please, oh please, let there be an Ocarina of Time remake. Let that rumor be true, and we're getting that this year because I think I would shit my pants. I would lose my mind if that game got announced. So hopefully we get that. Please, Nintendo, I am begging you. I want a remake of Ocarina of Time. And with that, let me know in the comments below what your special memories are of Zelda, your favorite Zelda game of all time, and I'll see you guys in the next video.